just sort of dab a little bit, spread it out. I am going to try here to not get too close to the edges so that I don't get any of this Napa on the inside of the box part of the frame. And you know, I'm going to leave some spaces where it looks, where you can see the wood grain through, but doesn't look like it's complete coverage, because that's kind of the look that I'm going for here. And like down at the bottom, like in one side, I'm not going to go as far down on the bottom as I do on the other. So I'm just going for a little messy, yeah, I didn't want to paint the whole thing kind of look. I saw somebody else do this. Actually, my team leader, Tarina, did this in a video of something she did, and it looked really cool. I really liked how it turned out. I was like, oh, that's a nice way to get some contrast. So I'm going to try and show you all something. So can you see it back on my pastes when I'm done so that they, again, don't dry out? I am going to use my drying tool, so forgive me for a second because it's going to be loud. I don't know if you all can see, well, you probably can't hear me over. Red where part of it is shiny and part of it is not. So the shiny is what's still wet, and if you have this in the right angle with your lighting while you're drying it, you will be able to watch it dry. Now you don't want to get it too close to the surface because you don't want it to, you know, it'll start to do that, right? Start to really fade out the paint, and that's okay because that's the look I was going for. But like with these chalkable shapes, if you get too close to the surface, they'll bubble. And so you kind of, I never put my drying tool on high, and I always try to keep it a decent amount of space away from the surface itself while I'm drying it. But because I'm going to chalk on this, I don't want to wait for it to dry. If you're new to all of this and you don't have a drying tool, you do not need anything fancy. You actually don't even need a drying tool. A blow dryer that has multiple settings, so you can use a low heat setting will work perfectly fine. I opted to get a drying tool, one, because I use it quite a bit, and two, it does take up less space than a blow dryer in my craft space because it's long and skinny and it'll fit just right in the little spot I have it for on my desk, or on my shelf over there. So that's the side of that. And then this is what I'm going to chalk on this. So she designed A Life She Loved. This is a 2023 chalk release. Again, it was either Creative Kickstart or Winter 2023. I don't remember which. My apologies. And I'm going to do that in Nominee. I think. Nominee or Bubbly. Or maybe both. Because I think the Bubbly will show up really well on this Napa. But then that way it will correspond with the colors that we've used on the other side. Because I'm going to chalk on this, I am going to wax it. So, my wax. So, I've actually started putting the wax on with my finger. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it helps me know where I've gotten wax and where I haven't because I can feel it. And two, I haven't found anything else that I like. No offense to the chalk applicators, they're just too small for me. They're great for buffing it off, but I have a hard time using them to put it on. but I also don't like regular microfiber cloths to put it on either. I'm not really sure why. So I was working on a project earlier this month, or actually no, last month, it was January. I'm like, I wonder what happens if I just use my finger. And I was like, I like that. So that's what I've been doing. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot at all. Usually, if you're using a non-chalk wood surface, I tend to kind of go heavy on the wax and then just buff it off really well. You know, chalk surfaces, even wood ones were made, you know, to work with the chalk paste, so you don't need it. But again, like using my finger, I can feel the wax going on, and I can tell, I can rub my finger over a certain area and be like, oh, no, I missed that. Or even when I buff it off, then I can tell that the wax didn't really go on the way it should. And I know that I need to go back over it. Because actually on a box frame project that I was working on earlier, I chalked on the inside of the box frame on the insert, and there was something on it, and I had to wax over a certain section of it several times before it felt smooth. And I was really glad I did, because the transfer came up just fine, and I know that if I hadn't really waxed it as much as I did, probably would have had some paste lift. I know this is a very boring part of the video, so my apologies again. This might actually get edited out. The other thing is that when I'm waxing with my finger, I feel like I can see the wax spread. Now part of it's probably I'm waxing on paste, and I'm waxing on a red paste, so you can see that blend in really well, as opposed to waxing on top of a white chalk surface where the white on white is just gonna blend together. The wax does give it a bit of a sheen, so sometimes you can kind of tell, oh, I missed a spot, if you turn it into the right light. Doing the wax on top of this Napa, it's making the Napa look darker, so I can kind of look at it and see, oh, no, there's no wax there, because I can see the distinction between the two. You don't need to leave the wax on very long. If I'm waxing non-chalk wood, I will usually set a timer and wait 2 to 3 minutes. If I'm waxing a chalk surface, even if it's a wood surface, typically I just get the wax on there and just buff it right off. Now, this has taken me a bit because it's a larger area, so by the time I'm done with the last part of it, the part I started on is good and dry. Now, you're going to see a little bit of the paste come up when you buff it off. That's okay. If it comes up so much that you can see more of your bottom layer of the surface than you want, then you can just go back over it. Again, any microfiber cloth will work to apply and to buff the wax, so you don't need a chalk wax applicator. I do like them for buffing the wax off, and I don't know where mine had gone, so I have ordered more, so that's good. I don't know where my other ones went. So, to buff it off, you're just gonna kind of go like you did when you were applying it. Kind of try to go in circles just to spread it around a little bit. You can kind of see it spreading and coming off. And then when I'm done buffing it off, I'll go back over the surface with my finger, and I will be able to tell, are there places that didn't get wax, or are there places where maybe the wax didn't buff off enough. And again, with a color like this, I can kind of see, and I can feel it as I'm buffing. Like, this is all very smooth. My cloth is just going right over it all. So, to me, I feel like the wax has been applied right and has buffed out right. A little place there is kind of sticky. There we go. So, you know, using wax is, well, like all the rest of it, it's just kind of a process. You know, first couple of times I used it, you know, it might work once and then not work quite so perfectly the next time. So I was just trying to figure out, okay, what did I do differently? So I think I'm kind of getting the hang of that. What I want to do in terms of color. Okay. So we're going to put this down. Now, I don't measure. I tend to eyeball things. You know, I want this to be kind of in the center. I might end up, you know, chalking a design above it or below it if I feel like it needs a little something. I'm gonna put it on, press it down starting in the middle. It tends to help a little bit, keep from getting bubbles. And you're just gonna press it all the way down. Watch for bubbles. If there are bubbles in your transfer while you are chalking it, your chalk will bleed, and a lot of times that can be fixed. But if you can catch the bubbles before you start to chalk, that's better. Okay, so I've had this tool forever, and I had no idea that this little tip came off of it and it had a pointy end, and you can use that to lift a corner of your transfer so you can peel it up. I just learned that last week, 2 weeks ago maybe. So I want to use the bubbly and the nominee. My fear is that the bubbly is not going to be dark enough, even on the red, to show up. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do this or if I want to do Hot Mess. I'm going to take a shot, because what I want to do is I want to do She and Loved in the bubbly and then Designed a Life She in the nominee. So I'm actually going to do the nominee first. Sorry. I'm going to do the She first. I am going to use the bubbly. I'm going to take a chance, folks. We're going to chalk this. Okay. And then I use my handy dandy tool. Pull up a corner. I'm going to lift it. Oh yeah, that She shows up great. That bubbly shows up great on this. Okay, very happy with that choice. Okay, so then I'm going to use my nominee and might have to cut another one of these. So these are the mini squeegees, and the mini squeegees cut in half I have found to be my favorite size to use. Don't know why. Okay, so we're going to do this middle section in the nominee. have to be too terribly careful because I'm doing all of these words in the middle in the nominee, so it's okay if I end up overlapping some. That lifted and I didn't want it to. Hopefully that won't mess up too much. Make sure I have all of my negative space. Make sure nothing seems to be lifted. Okay, I'm gonna actually go ahead and lift this up just a little more. Booger. Okay, there's a little part of that E that I was missing. Hopefully that'll work. There we go. Okay. Then we're going to do the next row. Have to be a little careful here because we're getting close to the word that I want to do in bubbly. And I apologize because you can't completely see what I'm doing here. The edges of this box frame are like blocking out what I'm doing in the video. Make sure I get that completely. That's probably gonna bleed. Something's weird's going on with that corner there. Okay. Use my tool. And lift the rest of this up. Nope, that looked fine. Okay. Okay, so then I'm gonna push this back down just a hair. Let's make sure that all of the letters on my last word are stuck to the surface. We're going to do this last one in bubbly. This is where I have to be a little more careful because we are all done in all the other colors, and of course I've got a little bit of nominee smeared everywhere. I am messy. I am a messy eater. I am a messy cook / baker. I am most definitely a messy crafter. Okay, so this one I'm gonna, well, no, it's okay because none of this is stuck, so it should be fine. So we're gonna lift all the way up. So there's that. I'm really happy with how that looks. So I am going to let that dry. I know I don't have to because if I flip it over, it won't touch the desk, but I need to wash these other transfers and I need to find my letterboard for my letter font transfer and get my eye cut out so we can finish this other side, and then kind of decide if I want to like add anything above or below or both